Well, ladies and gentlemen, so today we are going to be covering our 4 planetary conjunctions. And we're going to be covering the conjunction of Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn. And what happens when Sun, Mercury, Venus, and Saturn are conjunct in your horoscope. And as always, if you do not know, if you have this conjunction, where these conjunctions are placed, what sign they're in, what nakshatra they're in. For that, check out the links here. Check out my full astrological report, including my books, Astrology, Conjunction, and Aspects at the Speed of Light, including Mahadashas at the Speed of Light, and all my reports and consultations at this link. So, Sun, Venus, Mercury, and Saturn conjunction. And what happens? Well, one thing somebody made a good point that, 4 or more planets always create something known as sannyasa yoga, meaning a combination of a person who will renounce the world and will go more towards a spiritual side, will go more towards a spiritual lifestyle, becoming a yogi, becoming somebody who just simply is like a monk state type person. However, after doing so many consultations, after looking at so many charts with planets with 4 planetary conjunction, it doesn't turn out to be as accurate as you may think. Why? Does this mean that the things that are written in the classics are wrong? They're absolutely not wrong. They're 110% right. But you have to understand, people took one sloka, meaning one abbreviation in the classical text, and they just ran with it. They did not really understand what the sloka was trying to say. That 4 or more planets, first of all, which planets are conjunct, and number 2, where are they placed and which sign they're placed in. Because if you have 4 planetary conjunction happening in water sign, happening in 12th, 4th, and 8th house, yes, that brings about a very strong sannyasa yoga combination. If it happens in fire signs in the 1st, 5th, 9th house, it may actually make a priest, somebody who's a preacher, more than a monk. And if they're happening in like air signs and earth signs, then you see that the level of enthusiasm towards becoming a monk just goes down. Why? Because these planets are now have their materialistic desire and their actual just desire themselves very high. Because you have to let go of that desire, the material desire, in order to follow the path of sannyasa yoga. So that's one thing I want to clear up with this, is that sannyasa yoga only happens in certain conditions. So now let's talk about what these 4 planets are doing in your horoscope. So Sun, as you know, represents the father. Sun represents authorities, government, vitality. It's a significator of your career. Sun represents the energy within your body, the vitality, because Sun gives us energy. So in our horoscope, Sun becomes our energy. Then you have Mercury. Mercury represents your intelligence, intellect, speech, communication. It's your curiosity. Like, what are you curious about in this world? Then comes Venus. Venus represents your spouse. Venus represents all the materialistic, luxurious items, perfumes and purses and jewelry. Venus has also the ability to bring people out of dead. These are the people who become very strong, profound spiritual healers. Venus represents arts, media, creativity, performing arts. Simply, Earth, is really under the control of 2 planets, Jupiter and Venus. We come here to enjoy life, the material life, and to learn about the higher self, which is Jupiter. So these 2 planets are the main ministers of this Bhumandala. And then you have Saturn, discipline, structure, organization, sacrifices, duty, commitment. Saturn represents the practical world, the real world that you see in front of you. So first of all, you got to understand, in this conjunction, which are the most vulnerable planets. In this conjunction, Mercury, Venus become the two most vulnerable planets. First of all, naturally, they're small in size. Okay? And you have these two giant gas planets there. Okay? Then, Sun and Saturn both are arch enemies. They do not like each other. Anytime they come into the same house, there's going to be tremendous amount of friction. And you as a person will be forced to follow a certain procedure, law, wherever this is. If it occurs in your 4th house, Sun and Saturn shows that you had to follow very strict laws within your home when you were growing up. And naturally you found this friction with the father. Or you were forced to bow down in front of the father. So when these two soft planets are there, they're going to be in this tremendous heat and pressure of these two planets. So the first thing we see here, and obviously you have to understand that whenever Sun is involved in a conjunction, it has the ability to combust a planet, right? That's the term we use, combustion. But combustion does not mean that the planet becomes powerless. Because if Venus is conjunct or combust, or let's say your Saturn is combust, does that mean you're gonna stay in one room and not be able to perform any action? Because hey, Saturn is a significator of your karmas, your actions. You're not performing any actions. What are you doing? Sitting in one room and not doing anything because my Saturn is combust? No, you are living your life. You are performing deeds. You are performing your actions. Combustion simply means that for you to achieve the task related to those planets will require great efforts from you. And you will always have to deal with a lot of sensitivity related to those planets. Like if Venus is very close to Sun, you have to watch out how you deal with your spouse. What do you do with your spouse? What do you say to your spouse? Because they'll be very sensitive. Because they're overexposed. They're overexposed. It's not combust, it's overexposure of those planets. The energy of those planets are extremely bright. So one thing we also see, first of all, is that early in your life, relationships and communication will cause you problems, trouble, anguish, frustration. Like this can show a person who may even have like a speech impediment disorder, like somebody who has hard time speaking words out. And obviously you have to understand where this conjunction may have to then take place. Mostly the 2nd house and 3rd house and the 5th house. Like it's a perfect example would be of this basketball player named Ron Harper. Like if you ever see the interview of Ron Harper, even on YouTube, you can see when he's talking, it's very hard for him to bring those certain words out. Like with that frustration, the forceful then comes because Mercury, your speech and communication, including your 2nd house, could be bombarded with malefic impact. At the same time shows that obviously a person will find a much better spouse late in life. 28, 29, 30, 32, 34. Because early life will super expose the qualities of Venus. And Venus will feel too much pressure. Like when you have this conjunction, you get into a relationship, suddenly you're bombarded with that energy of Venus. Why? Because it's super exposed now. And not only that, you being in a relationship suddenly activated that Venus. So now as soon as you get into a relationship and it's fun, suddenly you feel this tremendous amount of frustration and pressure coming onto you. So it's hard for you. You become quite immature towards handling the relationship. And the communication in the relationship suffers. As you get older, like let's say if you look at logically, if I had a lamp, like if this is a lamp and I was When I was born, this lamp was turned on. What's going to happen as I grow older? It's going to dim, 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 dim. That means the older I get, the less of the malefic impact of the planets become. They become less aggravated. And what happens with time? We mature, right? We mature as people. We no longer think the same way. We don't have the same opinions as we did when we were 10 or when we were 15 or 20 or 25 or 30. It changes. It becomes more wise and mature. Just like that, all planets become wise and mature with age. So when you see a criminal, 20 years later in a prison giving interviews like, well, I was completely an idiot. I was stupid. I could have done something very much better for the world instead of me doing those things. Why? Because planets were immature. That means you were immature. So that's what you have to understand with this. Like, if you are not able to get your communication across and able to handle relationship, then you need to wait. You need to get that maturity within your head to understand what relationship is. Because early on when you get into a relationship, the ability to make sacrifices in a relationship will be super exposed. What did I say about Saturn? Saturn is duty, commitment, and sacrifices. Because you activated that relationship, all the other planets are conjunct in the same house. They're all gonna now start playing that role in the relationship. So now Saturn will say, well, you got the love, you got the communication. Well, now I'm gonna bring that frustration of duty and commitment and sacrifices. So if you got into a relationship and you are this great traveler, and now the significant other says, no, I don't want you to travel this much and it's dangerous for the places you're going. I want you here near me, or I want to go with you. What does that do? Now you're like, oh, all right, now I gotta make sacrifices and I cannot go into my, cruise that I wanted to go, or I cannot go into this mountain climbing that I wanted to go. And then you could feel this frustration that, is this the right person for me? Okay, well, and then slowly what happens is you feel like, oh no, I need to get away from this person because they are bringing too much responsibilities upon me. Where this person, you, in your 20s, in your teens, will not realize that that is a relationship, that is a marriage, that you are gonna have to sacrifice and give your duty and commitment. Now, Venus represents your spouse. Mercury represents the communication. Sun is the authority. Saturn is that harsh reality. When you get into a relationship early in life and get married, the other person will have a very strong authoritative rulership over you. When they communicate with you, they will be like, they will communicate in a way that they want this to be done. You have to do this. So what happens then? That's when then this fight of Saturn and Sun begins. Then the communication starts fighting with each other. Then this love of Venus then starts heating up. So it kind of becomes this, it's like you're taking a hot soup, okay, a really hot boiling soup, and you're putting Mercury and Venus in it. What is going to happen? It's going to be very heated. Also, if Mercury or Venus is too close to the Sun, you as a person having this conjunction will not feel so sexual in a relationship. Especially with this conjunction, these people will have a hard time feeling sexual unless, of course, it occurs in a certain sign and nakshatra. Like, for example, if it's in Leo, in nakshatra of Purva, Falguni, Magha, okay, then you can see overexposure of sexual energy. It'll be too much. If it occurs, in Revti nakshatra, if it occurs in Uttara Ashada nakshatra, there'll be much more gravitational towards duty towards the outer world, duty towards other people than your privacy and your private bed. Because also why, like in astrology, they say Venus can also be your father. Sun is your father and Venus is your father, especially in Gemini system. Why? How did father create you? Through his semen, through his sperm. Venus is sperm. This is why they say Venus is also your father. Especially the stronger of the sun and Venus will become the father, or at least qualities of the father. So this is why I said that because Venus represents that act of intercourse, so the semen can cross through and go to the egg. When it's too close to the sun, that means most of the semen is being burnt. When you were born, the semen was being burnt. It's gonna take time to cool. So you see that in their late 30s and early 40s, that's where these people's sexual energy rises. Because now it's like if you put Venus on a hot coal, well, when you were born, it was really hot coal. But if you leave those coal for 3-4 hours, they're gonna cool down. After 4 hours, they can cool down to a point where you can actually juggle the coal in your hand because it's not so hot. Same analysis you have to take over. Like, okay, this planet is gonna cool down. So now the other planets which are suffering, the 2 small planets, can finally rise up. And naturally, this creates a person who is very much responsible in life, especially when it comes to dealing with affairs of the government, affairs of politics, social welfare, and social reform. Like, these people are naturally passionate and attracted to doing something for society. They're very much into, hey, let's do something for society. These are the people who are in your colonies and in your neighborhood would want to set up the neighborhood watch, want to set up some committee to do something. Because also, Saturn and Sun are 2 planets related to government. Venus represents your passion. Mercury represents intelligence and your ability to communicate. So they become very good at giving their communication in terms of social causes. But definitely this conjunction shows early in life, there will be a lot of rule setting in your life through your father. And depending upon, certain signs, like if let's say Sun is holding the lowest degree, Sun is in the sign of Aries, you will have a much better relationship with the father. The only thing is you will have to listen to the father because then father becomes the king. Sun is not only exalted but holds the lowest degree. So father will be there for you as a great father, but he will demand utmost respect. If you don't follow rules, you'll get it. Same thing when Saturn holds the lowest degree, because now you'll have to make sacrifices and you have to make certain commitment whenever you have to deal with your father. And you will also feel like with this Venus that you'll sometimes feel like your spouse is like acting like your father. They have this natural authority. They try to put this authority on you as a father, which you do not like. So my best advice for this conjunction, that stay calm, don't get rushed into a marriage or relationship because you're not mature. When this conjunction happens, you're not mature to handle the sacrifices and commitment. One thing I would say, I don't care if you're in a conservative society or not, this is like a remedy. When you get into a relationship with someone at the age of 24, 23, 25, live with them. Live with them for six months to a year before marriage. Try to have that everyday conversation with them like a marriage couple would. See how it works out. If it's working out, then push forward. But if you know within 3 months, this is just becoming hard, then you know your planets are not mature to understand the commitment that it is required within the marriage. Okay? So guys, this is my analysis of Sun, Mercury, Venus, Saturn conjunction. If you're new to my channel, subscribe below. And if you don't know where your conjunction is, all your astrological report, my books, consultations, and readings, check out the links here. Otherwise, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.